All right, so now we're on to buttons. Buttons are a good way to draw attention to themselves. If you want a user to be aware of an action that they can take on a website, or rather even a link. If there's a link on a website that you want people to really see, then you can put it in a button. And so that's what we're going to do right now. At the top of the page here, we're going to, where is this top of the page? Here we go. Inside of the main area, or rather, let's put another row up here. Whoops. Wrong buttons. All right. So we're going to create div class row. We're going to make a bit of div soup here. Div class call medium 12. And in here we're going to put just a regular link. And we're going to link to google.ca. We're going to make target equal blank. And then we're going to type in, let's say, check out this new site. And then save it. Now when we refresh, we get that link. But let's say our website had a ton more content, and this link was likely to get lost. What we can do is we can turn a regular link into a button just by applying the classes. So class equals button, button success. So let's save this now and refresh, and there we get a nice button that draws more attention to itself. Now, what happens when you want to have, let me put some extra spacing in there actually. Let me see. A couple lines on the top, and this is the wrong way to do it, but it's the quickest way to do it. Typically, if you're designing something and you need more space around an element, you'd go into CSS and add some margin. For right now, I'm just going to add some line breaks. Now, by default, these buttons are inline, which means that we can place button next to button. And that's what we're going to do here. I'm going to put another button here. Let's just pretend it goes somewhere. And let's have it say, read our policies. And let's save it. Now let's refresh, and there's a link there. But let's add those classes to turn that into a button. And there, now we've got two buttons. But let's say that we want to be able to indicate to users which one we would like them to do more. Or, in other words, we want to draw more attention to one action than the other. So in this instance, maybe our policies aren't really that important. So what we'll do is we will change this from button primary to button outline primary. And what this does is it creates what's called a ghost button in CSS, where the color, the primary color of the button is not the background itself, but rather the text color and the outline. And then when you hover over it, it becomes this, full button experience. And this is called a ghost button, but in Bootstrap is simply referred to as button outline. Now, another thing we can do is, if we wanted to, we could change these sizes. So maybe the button success, let's say button-LG. And let's save it and refresh in there. Now we've got a large button here. And you can even make the other one smaller by adding the class btn-sm. Now, aside from these two sizes, you can also change the display property of these buttons without even touching a CSS. It's inside of a utility class for these buttons called button block. Save it and refresh, and now we've got a block level button. And so this will span the entire width of the page or the container that it's in. So that's a little bit about buttons. Now, Bootstrap has many, well, not many, but a few different colors of buttons. So you can say button success or button-info. Save it and refresh. You get this nice teal. Nah, that's not teal. That's it's kind of blue. You can rename it to danger. If you want to warn users, it becomes red. And now this is a bad thing. Typically, this would be a delete button. So if you wanted to delete the site, maybe this button would say delete the site. We don't want people to click that. Or we want them to be aware that if they do click it, something bad could happen. There's also warning, which is orange. So if you need an orange button, there's that there. And then there's secondary. Now, if you're coming from Bootstrap 3, or if you have any experience with Bootstrap 3, this would just be called button default, and it was the default styling of buttons, but it's called button secondary in Bootstrap 4. So, now you guys know all about buttons. Let's move on.